Millionaire orders flowers for his mother and ends up falling in love with the florist. He was only looking to honor his mother, but found a woman who could say with flowers what he never knew how to express. Each of her gestures disarmed him until one detail made him shudder. His name was among those who wanted to destroy everything she loved. Divided between passion and guilt, he tried to hide who he really was. But when the truth came to light, the cruelest doubt remained. Could she forgive the man who almost erased her history? If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. We continue. I promise this will be the best story you'll ever hear in your life. The scent of jasmine mixed with the sweet perfume of white roses filled every corner of the small flower shop. Ashley adjusted the petals of an arrangement delicately when she heard the bell at the door announce another customer. It was 7 in the morning, and she had already been there for 2 hours preparing the bouquets that would be delivered during the day. She had grown up among those flowers, learning from her mother the secrets that each one carried. Daisies spoke of innocence and new beginnings, lilies whispered about purity and rebirth, while red tulips shouted declarations of eternal love. It was a language few mastered, but one she had inherited naturally, like inheriting eye color or the way one smiles. The shop occupied the corner of a busy street in the center of the city, a space that resisted time while everything around it transformed. The exposed brick walls held decades of stories. There, her mother had built more than a business. She had created a refuge where people found the words they couldn't express through the right flowers. Ashley adjusted her flowered apron and walked to the entrance. Outside, the morning movement was already gaining intensity. Hurried executives passed by in their starched suits, students carried heavy backpacks, and street vendors prepared their stalls. The city was waking up with its habitual routine, but for her, each day brought the possibility of touching someone's life through a simple arrangement. She returned to the counter where she was working on a special bouquet, peach-colored roses intertwined with eucalyptus leaves and small wildflowers. It was an order for a marriage proposal, and she knew those flowers would carry one of the most important decisions in someone's life. Each petal needed to be perfect, each leaf in the right place, because that arrangement would be immortalized in photographs and in a couple's memory. The phone rang, interrupting her concentration. It was Mrs. Thompson, her neighbor and unofficial advisor, who had also been a close friend of her mother's. "Ashley, dear, how are you? Did you finish that arrangement for Mr. Wilson's daughter's wedding?" "I'm almost finishing, Mrs. Thompson. I was just putting the final touches." Ashley smiled as she spoke, even knowing the woman couldn't see her. "You have the gift, girl. Your mother would be proud to see how you keep the family tradition alive." The words brought a mixture of pride and melancholy that Ashley knew well. There were moments when she felt the weight of responsibility, as if she carried not just a business, but the memory of generations who had dedicated their lives to that small space. After hanging up, she returned to work. She was finishing the satin bow when an elegant figure walked through the door. He was a man of approximately 40 years old, with graying hair at the temples, wearing an impeccable navy blue suit. There was something in his posture that suggested authority, but his eyes showed genuine kindness. "Good morning, are you Ashley?" "Yes, that's me. How can I help you?" "My name is Michael Reynolds. I'm a cultural events organizer, and I'm here because I heard about your exceptional work with floral arrangements." Ashley observed him with curiosity. It wasn't common to receive such formal clients early in the morning, especially someone who seemed to come from a completely different world than hers. "I'm organizing a major literary event in the city. It will be a tribute to contemporary American writers, and we need someone who can transform the space using flowers as a central language. We don't just want decoration, we want art." His words awakened something in Ashley that she hadn't expected. It was a mixture of excitement and fear. Excitement to see her work recognized in such a special way, fear of not feeling prepared for a challenge of that magnitude. "It's a very interesting project, but I don't know if I would be the right person. My work has always been more intimate. Bouquets for weddings, arrangements for funerals, gifts for special dates." Michael approached the counter and observed the displayed arrangements. His eyes lingered on a composition that Ashley had created, using only local flowers, small white daisies, fern leaves, and cherry branches. It was simple, but there was an honest beauty in that simplicity. "May I ask you a question? What story does this composition tell?" The question surprised her. Ashley looked at the arrangement as if seeing it for the first time. Well, the daisies represent the purity of simple things. The fern symbolizes resilience, the ability to grow even in shaded places. And the cherry branches, she hesitated, represent the beauty that comes from what is ours, what belongs to our land. Michael smiled, and Ashley noticed there was something approving in his expression. That's exactly what we're looking for. Someone who understands that flowers aren't just decoration, but can tell profound stories about who we are. During the conversation, Ashley noticed that the man spoke with genuine passion about literature and art. He explained that the event would be held in 3 weeks, in a renovated cultural space in the historic downtown. There would be book launches, lectures, musical presentations, and exhibitions. It would be a celebration of American culture, and he wanted flowers to be the connecting thread that linked all these artistic expressions. May I think about it? Of course. But I'd like you to know that I truly believe in your potential. Sometimes we need to step out of our comfort zone to discover what we're really capable of. After Michael left, Ashley was alone with her thoughts. She walked through the shop, observing every corner she knew by heart. The wooden shelves where the vases were kept, the small greenhouse in the back where she cultivated special seedlings, the table where her mother used to work on more elaborate arrangements. The phone rang again. It was Mrs. Thompson. Ashley? I need to stop by quickly. I have something important to talk to you about. 20 minutes later, the white-haired woman with a warm smile arrived, bringing a still warm cornbread. Girl, you look worried. Did something happen? Ashley told her about Michael's proposal, about her doubts and fears. Mrs. Thompson listened in silence with that patience that only wise people possess. You know what your mother always told me, that a flower doesn't grow if it stays in the same soil. Sometimes it needs to be replanted to show all its beauty. But what if I can't do it? What if it's too big for me? Dear, you grew up hearing that each flower has its time and its story. Perhaps the time has come for your story to expand. Mrs. Thompson's words echoed in her mind throughout the day. While she attended to other customers, prepared arrangements, and organized the shop, Ashley felt she was at a decisive moment. There was something in Michael's invitation that went beyond the professional. It was as if he had seen in her a possibility that she herself couldn't see. At the end of the afternoon, she decided to walk around the city. She passed through the historic downtown, observing the old buildings that told the story of past generations. She imagined how it would be to transform that cultural space into a garden of words and flowers, where each environment would tell a different story through the language she mastered. When she returned to the shop, she found a note someone had left under the door. It was from an old client, thanking her for an arrangement she had made for her mother's birthday. Your flowers brought tears of joy and reminded our family that love can be expressed in the most delicate ways, the message said. Ashley kept the note in the drawer where she collected similar messages. There were dozens of thank you notes from people who had found in her creations a way to express feelings that words couldn't translate. Perhaps it was time to expand this gift to a larger audience. She called Michael that same night. I accept the challenge, but I want you to know that I'll do it my way, keeping the essence of what I learned here in this shop. I wouldn't expect anything else. I'm sure you'll create something memorable. After the call, Ashley stayed in the shop until later, mentally planning how she would approach the project. She took paper and pen and began to sketch ideas. She thought about creating thematic environments where each literary genre would be represented by specific flowers. Poetry could be translated through roses and lilies, prose through more structured arrangements with daisies and chrysanthemums, and regional literature through flowers typical to the region. While she worked, she felt her mother's presence in an almost tangible way. It was as if she were there, guiding her choices, whispering secrets about how to transform feelings into petals and colors. The shop, which had always been her refuge, seemed to approve her decision to accept the challenge. The following morning, Michael returned accompanied by a brunette woman with expressive eyes and a welcoming smile. It was Sarah, his assistant and partner in the project. Ashley, this is Sarah. She will be our communication bridge throughout the process. Ashley and Sarah greeted each other, and immediately there was a natural connection between them. Sarah demonstrated a deep knowledge of literature and art, but also a special sensitivity to understand how flowers could complement the event. I loved your initial ideas. I think we can create something really special together, said Sarah, flipping through the sketches that Ashley had prepared. During the next few hours, the three worked together, refining concepts and defining details. Ashley discovered that Michael and Sarah had been a professional duo for several years, organizing cultural events in different cities. There was a harmony between them that suggested not just a work partnership, but a solid friendship built over time. "We want you to have total creative freedom," explained Michael. "Our role is to take care of logistics and ensure you have all the necessary resources to execute your vision." As they talked, Ashley felt growing within her an energy she hadn't experienced in a long time. It was as if that project would awaken a part of herself that had been dormant. The initial fear was being replaced by genuine excitement in exploring the infinite possibilities of combining flowers and literature. When they left, Ashley looked around the shop with renewed eyes. The space she had always known as her entire world now seemed like a starting point for something bigger. She didn't yet know that this acceptance would change not only her career, but her entire understanding of herself and the place she occupied in the world. What had begun as a simple professional project would soon reveal itself as the beginning of a journey that would test not only her skills as a florist, but her ability to navigate unknown waters without losing the essence of who she had always been. In the following 2 weeks, Ashley dove headfirst into preparing for the event. Her routine changed completely. She woke before dawn to take care of the regular shop orders and spent the afternoons at the cultural space, studying every corner where her floral creations would come to life. The venue was an old, restored colonial mansion, within a courtyard, spacious halls, and architecture that breathed history. Sarah became her constant companion in this process. She always arrived punctually at 2 in the afternoon, carrying notebooks full of notes and contagious energy. Together, they walked through the spaces, discussing possibilities, testing combinations, and refining every detail of the project. "Ashley, have you thought about using regional flowers to represent local writers?" Sarah suggested during one of their visits to the space. "Actually, I've been researching that. I discovered that each region of America has typical flowers that could tell the story of our writers in a unique way." Michael observed the rapport between the two women with evident satisfaction. His presence was more discreet, but always attentive. He took care of the logistical aspects, ensuring that suppliers were contacted, that the space was prepared, and that all administrative details worked perfectly. During one of those afternoons, while Ashley and Sarah were planning the decoration for the main hall, Michael received a call that completely changed his expression. He went outside to answer it and returned visibly disturbed. "Everything okay?" asked Sarah, noticing the change in his behavior. "Yes, just bureaucratic issues, nothing we can't resolve." Ashley noticed there was something more behind that response, but didn't feel comfortable insisting. She concentrated on finalizing the sketches for the central arrangement that would be in the entrance hall. That night, when she returned home, Ashley found Mrs. Thompson waiting at the door of the shop with a serious expression. "Ashley, we need to talk. I discovered some things that might be important for you." They entered the shop together, and Mrs. Thompson got straight to the point. "This morning, I met Mrs. Baker, the one who's worked at City Hall for 30 years. She told me rumors are circulating about changes downtown. It seems there's a group of businessmen interested in buying several old properties in the area." Ashley frowned, not understanding where the conversation was heading. "And what does that have to do with me?" "Well, dear, your shop is located exactly on one of the streets they want to renovate. Mrs. Baker said people have already been around here surveying the buildings." The information hit like a bucket of cold water. Ashley had never thought about the possibility of losing the space she considered her home. The shop was more than a business. It was the family legacy, the place where her roots were planted. "But this is just speculation, isn't it? Nobody can force us to sell." "I hope so, girl, but I thought it better, you know." In the following days, Ashley tried to push away these concerns by focusing on the event project, but she began to notice details that had previously gone unnoticed. People with clipboards photographing facades, men in suits observing the buildings, whispered conversations among merchants in the area. It was during one of those work afternoons that Ashley decided to get to know Michael better. She took advantage of a moment when Sarah had gone out to buy materials and struck up a conversation. "Michael, have you always worked with cultural events?" "Actually, I started in urban architecture. I worked for many years with historic downtown revitalization projects." "And what made you change fields?" Michael hesitated before answering, as if carefully choosing his words. Let's say I became disillusioned with some aspects of urban development. I realized that revitalization doesn't always benefit those who actually live and work in these spaces. I decided to use my experience to promote culture in a more humanized way. The response intrigued Ashley. There was something in the way he spoke that suggested difficult past experiences, perhaps even painful ones. Did you grow up here in the city? Yes, but I was away for many years. I returned a few months ago with Sarah to develop this project. It's a way of giving something back to the community. During this conversation, Ashley observed that Michael spoke with genuine passion about culture and art, but there were moments when his expression became distant, as if navigating complex memories. Sarah returned loaded with bags of materials, interrupting the conversation, but Ashley kept that information, feeling there were layers to Michael's personality that she hadn't yet discovered. That week, while organizing old shop papers to make room for new suppliers, Ashley found a box stored in the attic that she didn't remember seeing before. Inside were old documents, photographs of the shop from different eras, and surprisingly, correspondence exchanged between her mother and lawyers about a possible sale of the property. The letters were from 20 years ago, when Ashley was still a teenager. Her mother had considered selling the shop to a real estate development company. The reasons were detailed in the correspondence: financial difficulties, pressure from creditors, the need to secure her daughter's future. Ashley felt as if she were discovering a secret chapter in the family history. Her mother had never mentioned these difficulties, always maintaining an appearance of stability and control. Reading those letters was like seeing the fears and vulnerabilities of a woman she had idealized as invincible. The last letter in the sequence was a notice from the company informing that they had given up on the purchase due to changes in the development plans for the region. Her mother had responded with a brief note: "I thank God for this opportunity to keep our family tradition alive." Ashley closed the box with trembling hands. That discovery changed her perspective on many things. She understood that keeping the shop running had been a constant struggle, not just a natural gift. Her mother had faced pressures and temptations, but had chosen to preserve the family legacy even when it meant personal sacrifices. The next morning, she arrived at the shop determined to research more about the current situation in the neighborhood. She called some neighboring merchants and confirmed that several had received purchase offers in recent weeks. Some were tempting offers, values well above market price. It was then that a disturbing connection formed in her mind. Michael had mentioned previous experience with urban revitalization. The cultural event was being held exactly in the historic downtown, in the same region where properties were being bought. Sarah always demonstrated detailed knowledge about the local geography and economy. Ashley tried to push away these suspicions, but they persisted like a shadow in her thoughts. When Michael and Sarah arrived that afternoon, she observed them with different eyes. She noticed that Michael knew the cultural space with a familiarity that went beyond the professional. Sarah made comments about changes in the region that suggested intimate knowledge of development projects. "Michael, may I ask you a direct question?" "Of course. Who is financing this event?" The question created an uncomfortable silence. Michael and Sarah exchanged a look that Ashley interpreted as silent communication. "It's a consortium of local companies interested in promoting culture." "Why do you ask?" "Curiosity. As a florist, I've always been interested in knowing who values artistic work." Michael seemed to accept the explanation, but Ashley noticed that he became more cautious in subsequent conversations. That night, Ashley asked Mrs. Thompson to accompany her on an investigation. Together, they went to the property registry office to research information about recent transactions in the region. What they discovered confirmed her darkest suspicions. A company called Urban Renewal Inc. had acquired 17 properties in the region in the last 6 months. The company's address was the same as the office where Michael and Sarah had said they worked. "Ashley, this could just be a coincidence," said Mrs. Thompson, trying to soften the situation. "Or it could be that I'm being used to promote a project that will destroy everything my family built." During the next few days, Ashley continued working on the event project, but with a growing feeling of distrust. She observed every word from Michael, every gesture from Sarah, looking for signs that would confirm or deny her suspicions. It was Sarah who broke the silence first. One afternoon, when Michael had gone out to resolve logistical issues, She approached Ashley with a serious expression. "Ashley, I feel you're suspicious of something. May I know what it is?" Ashley hesitated, but decided to be direct. "I discovered that Michael worked with urban revitalization. I discovered that there's a company buying properties in the region. I discovered that this company's address is the same as your office." Sarah sighed deeply, as if a long-held truth was about to emerge. "You're right in your suspicions, but not about the intentions. Michael really did work with urban development, but he left precisely because he disagreed with the methods. Urban Renewal Inc. is his father's company." The revelation hit Ashley like a punch. She had begun to develop feelings for Michael, admired his passion for culture, his kindness, his respectful way of treating her work. Discovering that he had direct links to the company that threatened her world was devastating. "Does he know my shop is on the list of properties they want to buy?" "I don't know." Michael completely distanced himself from the family business 2 years ago. He created this cultural project as a way to use his experience for something he considers more worthy. "But you use the same office." "It's a space that Michael rented using personal savings. He made a point of not using family resources." Ashley didn't know whether to feel relief or confusion. Sarah's explanation seemed sincere, but the situation remained complicated. Michael might genuinely be distanced from the family business, but his proximity to her still represented a conflict of interest. "Sarah, I need time to process all this. I understand, but I want you to know that Michael has no idea your shop is being targeted. He chose you for the project based exclusively on your talent." When Michael returned, he found Ashley packing up her materials to leave early. "Did something happen?" "I'm just a little tired. We'll talk about the final details tomorrow." Michael noticed the coldness in her tone but didn't insist. After Ashley left, Sarah informed him of the conversation they'd had. "Michael, you need to tell her the whole truth. She deserves to know." "I know, but I'm afraid she'll quit the project, and I'm afraid she'll give up on me." "If you really care about her, you need to be honest. Secrets always end up being discovered." Ashley spent the night sleepless, turning over in her mind all the information she had discovered. She felt divided between her growing attraction to Michael and the need to protect what was most precious to her. The shop wasn't just a business. It was her identity, her security, her connection to her mother and to the family tradition. By morning, she made a decision that would change the course of the entire story. She called Michael and asked to meet him at the shop alone before Sarah arrived. It was time for a conversation that could no longer be postponed. Michael arrived at the shop at the agreed time, carrying 2 cups of coffee and an expression that mixed expectation and apprehension. Ashley received him cordially, but he immediately noticed that something fundamental had changed between them. "Ashley, Sarah told me about the conversation you two had yesterday. I imagine you have questions." "I do. But before anything else, I need you to understand something. This shop isn't just my work. It's my entire life. It's my family's legacy. It's all I have." Michael nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. "I want you to tell me the whole truth about your family, about the company, about your plans for this region." During the next hour, Michael opened his heart in a way he had never done before. He told about the family pressure to follow his father's business, about the years he spent developing urban revitalization projects that, in the end, expelled local communities in the name of progress. "I participated in projects that destroyed the essence of entire neighborhoods. Families who had built their lives over generations were displaced to make way for shopping centers and corporate buildings. I justified everything in the name of development, but the guilt consumed me." Ashley listened in silence, observing the genuine pain in his expression. 2 years ago, there was an especially cruel project. A community of artisans that had existed for more than 50 years was removed to build a commercial complex. I was the technical lead on the project. When I saw entire families crying as they left their workshops, I couldn't continue anymore. And then, I broke with my father. I resigned from the company. I took my savings and decided to use my experience to promote culture in a way that would truly benefit local communities. Michael explained that he had chosen to return to his hometown specifically to develop cultural projects that would value existing spaces and people instead of replacing them. "When I discovered your work, I saw exactly what I was looking for. Someone who understands that art isn't just decoration, but a way to preserve and express the soul of a community." Ashley felt her heart divided. Michael's sincerity was evident, but the situation remained complex. "Michael, do you have any idea that your family is interested in buying this shop?" The question caught him completely off guard. His expression of surprise seemed genuine. "No, I have no idea. Since I broke with my father, I don't have access to information about the company's projects." "So you don't know that 17 properties in this region were bought by your family's company in the last 6 months?" Michael was visibly shaken. He stood up and walked to the window, observing the street as if seeing it for the first time. "Ashley, I swear I had no knowledge of this. I chose this region for the cultural project exactly because I wanted to preserve its authenticity. But you understand that this changes everything, don't you? Even if your intentions are good, your presence here may be serving the company's interests." "How so?" "A successful cultural event enhances the region. Enhanced properties justify higher prices. Higher prices facilitate buying and subsequent renovation." Michael realized the perverse logic of the situation. Without knowing it, he might be contributing to the same kind of process that had made him abandon his previous career. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to find out exactly what the company's plans are for this region. I want you to tell me if my shop is really threatened. And if it is, then I'll have to make difficult decisions." Michael agreed to investigate the situation. In the following days, he used old contacts and his residual influence to obtain information about his father's company's projects. What he discovered was worse than Ashley had imagined. Urban Renewal, Inc. had developed an ambitious plan to transform the entire historic downtown. The goal was to create a cultural district that would combine sophisticated commercial spaces with tourist attractions. Ashley's shop was located exactly at the central point of the project. When Michael brought this information, Ashley felt as if the ground was opening beneath her feet. It wasn't just her shop that was threatened, but the entire identity of the neighborhood where she had grown up. "There's a meeting with investors scheduled for next week. They're going to present the complete project and seek additional funding." "And the cultural event?" "It's being used as a showcase to demonstrate the region's potential. They want to show that there's demand for culture and tourism in the area." Ashley felt betrayed and used. Her art, her passion, her work were being manipulated to serve interests that threatened everything she valued. "Michael, I can't continue with the project." "Ashley, please, we can find a way to use the event to resist these plans." "How?" "Let's do exactly what you do best. Let's use flowers to tell a story, but not the story they want to hear. Let's tell the real story of this community." The idea intrigued Ashley. Instead of creating an event that served commercial interests, they could use the platform to highlight the values and traditions that were being threatened. "Would you be willing to confront your own family?" "I already confronted them when I broke with the company. I'm willing to go further if necessary." They decided to completely reformulate the concept of the event. Instead of a generic celebration of American literature, they would create a specific tribute to local stories and traditions. Each floral arrangement would tell the story of a family or business that had contributed to the neighborhood's identity. Sarah, initially surprised by the change of direction, soon became excited about the new proposal. "It's riskier but much more meaningful. Let's make an event that really matters." In the following 2 weeks, Ashley worked with an intensity she had never experienced before. She visited old merchants, talked with longtime residents, collected stories and memories that transformed into inspiration for her floral creations. Mrs. Thompson became her unofficial assistant, connecting her with people who had important stories to tell. Together, they discovered fascinating narratives about the formation of the neighborhood, about families who had resisted previous changes, about traditions that persisted despite modern pressures. The event took shape as a celebration of cultural resistance. Each environment in the cultural space was dedicated to a different aspect of local identity. Ashley created floral installations that were true works of narrative art. In the main hall, a suspended garden represented the continuity of family traditions. Flowers from different eras intertwined, symbolizing how the past nourishes the present. In the inner courtyard, arrangements with native plants told the story of the land itself, of how local nature had shaped regional culture. Michael coordinated the technical aspects with total dedication. He knew that event could be his way of repairing the damage caused by years of destructive projects. 3 days before the event, Ashley received an unexpected visit. An elegant man, approximately 60 years old, introduced himself as Richard Reynolds, Michael's father. "Miss Ashley, I need to talk to you about the event you're organizing with my son." Ashley received him with courtesy, but kept her guard up. "I heard that you changed the original concept of the event. This might create problems for everyone involved." "What kind of problems?" "Miss, I'm an experienced businessman. I know my son has romantic ideas about cultural preservation, but the reality is that progress is inevitable. This region needs development." "And what does that have to do with my work?" "Your shop is in a strategic location. I can make a very generous offer for the property, well above market value." Ashley felt a mixture of indignation and fear. The offer meant her suspicions were correct, but it also represented a real temptation. The amount mentioned by Richard could solve all her financial problems and allow her to start over elsewhere. "I need to think." "Of course, but consider that opportunities like this don't appear frequently." After Richard left, Ashley was alone with tumultuous thoughts. For the first time, she seriously considered the possibility of selling the shop. She could use the money to open a new business in another neighborhood, maybe even expand to other cities. But when she looked around the space where she had grown up, where her mother had built a life, where so many stories had been woven through flowers, she knew she couldn't abandon everything. She called Michael and told him about his father's visit. "He came to you? That means they're really worried about the event." "Michael, your family is powerful. Can they cause us problems?" "They can try, but we have the right to hold our event the way we choose." On the eve of the event, Ashley worked until dawn, giving the final touches to the installations. Each flower was in the right place. Each arrangement told its part of the larger story they wanted to narrate. Michael arrived early to help with the final preparations. They worked side by side, and Ashley felt that, despite all the complications, there was a genuine connection between them that transcended the circumstances. "Ashley, regardless of what happens today, I want you to know that you've changed my perspective on many things. You've changed mine too." Sarah arrived carrying the last materials and found an atmosphere of expectant tension. "Ready to make history?" "We're ready to tell the truth," Ashley replied. The event was scheduled to start at 7 in the evening. At 5, Ashley took a final walk through the spaces, checking every detail. Everything was perfect, but she knew the real test would come when the audience arrived. Outside, it was already possible to see some people approaching. Curious local residents, intellectuals interested in literature, journalists who had been invited, and also some figures that Ashley recognized as being connected to the business world. The battle was about to begin, but this time Ashley knew exactly what she was fighting for. The literary event was scheduled to start punctually at 7 in the evening, but at 5 in the morning of that same day, Ashley had received a phone call that almost destroyed all her plans. The main flower supplier had cancelled the delivery, citing logistical problems that she knew were the result of external pressures. With only 14 hours until the start of the event, Ashley faced what seemed to be an inevitable disaster. All of her creations depended on the specific flowers she had ordered, each one chosen to tell a part of the story they wanted to narrate. Michael arrived at the shop when it was still dawn, finding Ashley surrounded by papers and phones, desperately trying to find alternative suppliers. "Ashley, what happened?" "They cancelled the delivery. All the flowers I had planned to use, all the specific colors, all the rare species I had ordered. This can't be a coincidence." "Of course not, but complaining won't solve our problem." Ashley looked out the window of the shop, observing the neighborhood that was beginning to wake up. Street vendors organized their stalls, merchants opened their doors, children ran to school. It was the simple and authentic life she wanted to celebrate at the event. Then she had an idea that changed everything. "Michael, help me carry some buckets. We're going to collect our own flowers." "What do you mean?" "We're going to use what we have here, flowers from the neighborhood gardens, plants that grow on the sidewalks, branches from local trees. We're going to do exactly what our story represents. Create beauty with what is ours." During the next few hours, Ashley, Michael, and Sarah traveled throughout the neighborhood, asking permission to collect flowers from residents' gardens. The response was surprising. When they learned it was for a cultural event that would celebrate local history, everyone was eager to contribute. Mrs. Thompson opened her entire garden, where she cultivated old roses she had inherited from her own mother. Mr. Wilson, owner of the bakery at the corner, offered branches of the blossoming dogwood that had shaded his store for decades. Each neighbor contributed something unique, transforming the collection into a spontaneous community celebration. Sarah documented the entire process, realizing that that morning had become a fundamental part of the story they wanted to tell. Ashley, this is much better than the original plan. Each flower has a real story, a genuine connection with the community. At 2 in the afternoon, they arrived at the cultural space loaded with local flowers, each one bringing not only beauty, but memories and profound meanings. Ashley worked with renewed energy, creating arrangements that were true works of narrative art. In the main hall, she assembled a suspended garden using flowers that different families had cultivated over generations. Each arrangement was accompanied by a small plaque telling the story of the family who had donated those flowers. Michael coordinated the technical aspects with total dedication, but also observed Ashley working with growing admiration. She had transformed a crisis into an opportunity, creating something much more authentic than any original plan could have been. At 6 in the evening, 1 hour before the official start, Ashley made a final check of all the environments. Each space told a part of the neighborhood story through flowers. In the inner courtyard, native plants intertwined with traditional arrangements, symbolizing how the past and present can harmoniously coexist. The first guest to arrive was, surprisingly, Richard Reynolds, Michael's father. He walked through the environments with an expression that mixed surprise and something Ashley couldn't immediately identify. "Miss Ashley, I must admit I didn't expect this." "What did you expect?" "I expected a common cultural event, something we could use for our commercial purposes. But this is different." Ashley observed the man walking through the space, stopping in front of each installation, reading the plaques that explained the origin of each flower. His expression was gradually changing. "That rose there," he said, pointing to an arrangement in the center of the hall, "is the same as the ones my mother cultivated in the yard when I was a child." "It's possible." Mrs. Thompson, who donated these roses, said they're an old variety that has been passed from family to family for generations. Richard remained silent for a long moment, contemplating the flowers. Ashley realized that something deeply personal was happening in that observation. Gradually, other guests began to arrive. Local residents mixed with intellectuals, journalists conversed with artisans, children ran between the arrangements while their parents read the stories of each family. Michael found Ashley in the middle of the growing crowd. "It's being an incredible success, but there's something more important. Look who's talking with Sarah." Ashley followed the direction of Michael's gaze and saw Sarah in an animated conversation with a young man she recognized as being a well-known investigative journalist in the city. He's interested in doing a report on urban development projects in the region. Sarah is telling him about our discovery of the company's plans. Is that good or bad? Depends on what we want to achieve. If we just want a successful cultural event, it could be complicated. If we really want to protect the neighborhood, it might be exactly what we need. Ashley observed the crowd around her. She saw her neighbors proudly showing visitors the flowers they had donated, children enchanted with the colors and aromas, people discovering stories they had never heard about the place where they lived. "Michael, when I was little, my mother taught me that flowers don't lie. They express exactly what they are, without falsity, without disguise. I think it's time we were like flowers." "What do you mean?" "I mean we're going to tell the complete truth about the plans for the neighborhood, about the threat to small businesses, about the importance of preserving our identity." Ashley climbed onto a small improvised platform in the center of the main hall and asked for the crowd's attention. "Friends, when I began planning this event, I thought I was just creating a celebration of American literature. But what I discovered in the process was much more important. I discovered that we are celebrating our own resistance." She told about the development plans, about the pressures to sell properties, about the importance of preserving not just the buildings, but the stories and traditions they housed. "Every flower you see here was donated by a family from this neighborhood. Each arrangement tells the story of people who built their lives in this place. We cannot allow these stories to be erased in the name of progress." Ashley's speech was received with enthusiastic applause. But the most surprising moment came when Richard Reynolds asked to speak. "I came here today as a businessman, thinking about development and profit. But as I walked through these environments, Seeing these flowers that reminded me of my own childhood, I realized that I'm about to destroy something much more valuable than any commercial project. He announced to everyone's surprise that he was canceling the development plans for the region. My company will direct its resources toward projects that preserve and value existing communities, instead of replacing them. Michael looked at his father with a mixture of surprise and pride. Then he addressed the crowd. I want to announce that we're going to create a permanent fund to support local small businesses and community cultural initiatives. This event is just the beginning. In the days that followed, Ashley saw her life change in ways she had never imagined. The event had national repercussions, with journalists highlighting the creative way the community had resisted predatory development plans. Partnership proposals arrived from different cities, invitations to replicate the model in other regions, opportunities to expand her work to a much wider reach. But Ashley had learned something fundamental. Growing didn't necessarily mean abandoning roots. She decided to keep the shop as her center of operations, but expand her work to include consulting on community cultural projects. Sarah became her official partner, combining technical knowledge with the artistic sensitivity that Ashley had developed. Michael remained in the city, developing new projects that used culture as a tool for preserving and valuing local identities. What had begun as a professional partnership between him and Ashley gradually transformed into something deeper. 6 months after the event, Michael found her in the shop on a rainy afternoon, when she was arranging a particularly complex arrangement. Ashley, may I ask you a question? Sure. Have you ever thought about getting married? The question caught her by surprise, but when she looked at Michael, she saw in his eyes the same sincerity she had learned to admire. I have, but I would only marry someone who understood that my shop is part of who I am. And if I said I would love to spend the rest of my life helping you take care of this shop and all the projects it can generate. Ashley put down the flowers she was holding on the counter and walked over to Michael. I would say you found the right words. The wedding was held a year later, in the same cultural space where everything had begun. Ashley created her own decoration using flowers donated by the entire community. Each arrangement told a part of their story, from the first meeting to the decision to build a future together. Mrs. Thompson was the unofficial matron of honor. Sarah organized the ceremony with her characteristic efficiency, and even Richard Reynolds participated, bringing seedlings of old roses he had found on the family property. During the party, Ashley observed the crowd around her, neighbors, friends, work partners, all celebrating not just a wedding, but the victory of a community that had learned to value its own history. Michael approached her during the waltz. Do you have any regrets? Just one. Which one? I should have started all this much earlier. They danced surrounded by flowers that told the story of resistance, love, and renewal. Ashley knew there would still be challenges, that preserving traditions in a constantly changing world would require constant struggle. But she also knew that she had found not just a partner, but a cause that gave meaning to each day. The shop continued operating, but now it was also the headquarters of an organization that helped other communities resist predatory development projects. Ashley and Michael traveled around the country, teaching how to use culture and art to strengthen local identities. Mrs. Thompson, at 80 years old, became the neighborhood's official chronicler, documenting stories that could have been lost. Sarah expanded her work to include consulting on cultural preservation, and Richard Reynolds redirected his company towards sustainable development projects. 3 years after the wedding, Ashley discovered she was pregnant. When she told Michael, he smiled and said, "Our daughters will grow among flowers just as you grew, but they'll also grow knowing they can change the world. How can you be sure they'll be girls? Because I'm sure it will be a girl, and I'm sure she'll be like you." Ashley laughed, caressing her still flat belly. "If it's a girl, I'll teach her that each flower tells a story. If it's a boy, I'll teach the same thing. And I'll teach that preserving these stories is the most important thing we can do." The girl was born on a spring morning, when the shop was perfumed with the aroma of the season's first flowers. Ashley named her Rose, in honor of the grandmother she never knew, but whose legacy remained alive in every petal she touched. When Rose turned 1 year old, Ashley organized a party in the shop's garden. She looked around and saw that her life had become exactly like the flowers she loved so much. It had grown, renewed itself, but kept its roots firm in the soil that had nourished it. Michael held their daughter in his arms, while Ashley cut the cake decorated with small edible flowers. "Have you taught our daughter anything important yet?" "I taught her that flowers don't lie. They are always truthful, always authentic." "What else?" "That truth, like flowers, needs to be cared for every day to continue blooming." Rose grew up hearing stories about the shop, about the community's resistance, about the importance of preserving traditions while allowing yourself to grow and change. At 5 years old, she already knew how to distinguish different types of flowers by their scent. And at 7, she helped her mother create small arrangements. Ashley knew she couldn't guarantee that her daughter would choose to follow the family tradition, but she could guarantee that she would grow up understanding the value of roots, community, and authenticity. On a summer afternoon, while arranging flowers for a wedding, Ashley found among the old papers a letter she had never read. It was from her mother, written shortly before her departure, and it said, "My dear Ashley, if you're reading this, it means the shop is still alive, and that fills me with joy. But I want you to know that the most important thing is not to keep things as they've always been. The most important thing is to keep alive the spirit of love and care that we built here. If someday you need to change, grow, or even leave, do it with courage." Flowers teach us that growing sometimes means changing places, but never means forgetting our roots. Ashley kept the letter in her heart, knowing she had fulfilled her mother's wish. She had kept alive not just the shop, but the spirit of resistance and love it represented. 10 years after the first cultural event, Ashley and Michael organized a new celebration, this time to commemorate the preservation of the neighborhood and the success of the community projects they had inspired. Rose, now 7 years old, helped create the main arrangements, showing a natural talent that made Ashley smile with pride. During the party, Ashley walked through the same environments where everything had begun, but now she saw not just preservation, but renewal. New businesses had established themselves, respecting the local identity. Young artists found space to express their creations. Children grew up in an environment that valued both tradition and innovation. Michael found her contemplating the central garden, where Rose played with other children among the flowers. "Any regrets?" "Not regrets, just grateful." "Grateful for what?" "For having learned that preserving doesn't mean standing still. It means growing while keeping our roots firm." They stood there, watching their daughter play among the flowers, knowing she would grow up in a world where tradition and progress had learned to coexist, where small resistances could blossom into great changes, where love had the power to transform not just individual lives but entire communities. Dear listeners, we hope that Ashley and Michael's story has deeply touched your hearts. The journey of this young florist who learned that preserving traditions and embracing changes can go hand in hand teaches us that the most important battles are fought not just with courage, but with genuine love for the community and for the roots that form us. If this story awakened in you the same emotion we felt in telling it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel below to discover more narratives that celebrate the transformative power of love and resistance. Leave your like so we can continue bringing stories that nourish the soul and inspire positive changes in our lives. In the comments, we would really like to know what flower would represent your family's story. Share with us your own traditions and memories. Every day we lovingly prepare narratives that explore the complex beauty of human life, and your story might be the next one we tell. Until our next journey together, may your own flowers of life continue blooming.